Let there be light.
We've been in the middle of a talk about discussing the Bible, the creation, and how that lines up with string theory. How does that line up with common physics? If you're interested in any of those subjects, tap here. Welcome to Talk Real. If you haven't been here before, it's my mission to provide real answers for real life. And I made this channel and my website to provide those answers that I found and answers that I'm continuing to learn in my journey. So one of the first words of the Bible is, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The reason why I emphasize heavens is that it's interesting how it is plural in the Bible. You see, the Bible is divided up into two halves. It's called the Old Testament, that's the first half, and the New Testament, which is the second half. Christians like to summarize it as the Old Testament as the before Jesus topics, the New Testament as the after Jesus topics. In the Old Testament, you find all the old Jewish laws and how God operated before Jesus came. There were eating restrictions. There were certain laws about what you could do. These are where the 10 Commandments are found. A lot of external moral code was found here. But the Old Testament isn't just a big law book. There's certainly a big fraction about it. But mostly the Old Testament is a bunch of stories. All throughout the Old Testament, you see God being faithful to his clan, his tribe, his crew, all throughout history as they followed him faithfully. And in the New Testament, after Jesus comes, God continues the story of being faithful with those who have been faithful to him throughout history. It's not God being exclusive to a certain people group. These are the only people that decided to stay faithful to him and not rebel. So now that you got a historical backdrop, I can talk about what that word heaven means in both the Old and New Testament. You see, the Old Testament was originally written in Hebrew. The New Testament was originally written in Greek. Later on, the Old Testament was translated into Greek because at that time, most of the world was speaking Greek. This was the time of Alexander the Great, and Greek language was the common language. The Greek translation of the Old Testament is called the Septuagint. In the Septuagint, that word heaven is the word uranos. Now, I know it's weird. In Greek, the R's look like P's and the N's look like V's, but just bear with me. What's interesting is that both the Old and New Testament talk about multiple heavens. In the New Testament, we hear about one influencer of early Christianity, Paul, talking about being taken up to the third heaven. We don't know how he went up to the third heaven. It could have been a God-induced astral projection, but he talks about this bizarre experience. In this experience, he describes this as seeing paradise in this third heaven. Now, I don't know about you, but the fact that he said third heaven implies to me that there are multiple heavens out there. So what does it mean that there are multiple heavens, and what does that mean in modern terms? When you look at how the Bible uses in the Old and New Testament the word heaven, it describes a much different picture than we tend to ascribe. Certainly there is the heaven, where all the good people go, but more broadly the word uranos describes our universe, the stars, the sun, anything beyond this earth. I would argue uranos could more likely be defined as dimension. With that being said, what Paul was describing was entering into this new dimension of reality. Not necessarily the third dimension, but a higher dimension than what he's normally experiencing. This is quite different because string theory, as we talked about in this video, string theory talks about how there are possibly 11 dimensions when you include time. If you pay attention to the Jewish writings around Jesus' day, you notice that there are some interesting theories about heaven. One of these Jewish writings is Second Enoch. Second Enoch was written around the time of Jesus, actually, and it describes this prophet Enoch being taken to all these different dimensions. He goes through these 7 realms, and the third realm actually is the paradise that Paul is talking about, or at least it looks like it. Although Second Enoch isn't biblical scripture, it gives you a picture of what the Jews of Jesus' day were thinking about heaven. In these different heavens, Enoch sees angels, he sees demons, he sees the ancient Garden of Eden talked about in Genesis 1, and in the highest dimension, he goes to God's throne, which in modern terms would be like God's CEO business room. Again, while Second Enoch isn't scripture, it shows us that the Jews believed that there were multiple dimensions of our reality. Fast forward 2,000 years, we have string theorists theorizing that very thing, that there are many dimensions of our reality. We only experience 3 and 4 if you include time. What does this mean for us? If you're interested on what this means for you, as a Christian, as a non-Christian, check out this video because it's pretty interesting. Hey guys, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if this video really encouraged you. I upload videos every week. And if you prefer to read more, check out my website at talkreal.co. I write so much stuff about so many different topics from my faith journey.